Denmark is a real apple country. Not the apples out of Silicon Valley, but this, the fruity, the acidic, sweet, juicy, crisp fruit that we all love so much. You know, our climate here in Denmark is about perfect to grow the best apples in the world. And when you then combine the best Danish apples with a little French craftsmanship and a cognac cask, you get a totally unique Cask Aged Gin and a mouthful worthy of, well, the Nordic gods and all of us. Hi guys, and welcome back to High on Gin. In this second episode of 3, where I take a closer look at Cask Aged Gin and give you my best recommendations, I've come to one of my and my guests' favorite gin, Kongsgaard Gin. But before we take a closer look at the Cask Aged version of Kongsgaard Raw Gin called the Kongsgaard Dark Gin, let's take a quick look at Kongsgaard Gin and the folks and some of the stories behind this gin. Because Kongsgaard Gin is something as unusual as an international Danish gin, a blend between a married couple's enormous passion for gin and for Danish apples, combined with a French duo and their artisanship within creating, perfecting and distilling gin. Bettina and Søren Kongsgaard started their gin brand in 2014, at a time where not that many new Danish gins had seen the light of day. But driven by their love for Danish apples and their strong belief in making the best gin with the best apples out there, they went looking for the right small artisan distillery that could really help them turn their ideas into gin. They eventually found Mikko and Ian at Audemus Distillery in the Cognac region of France. And these guys have created this small, truly unique and world-renowned distillery with their ability to, well, I guess, look at every botanical and its character and distill it individually with, well, both a traditional pot still, but also a rotavap to be able to vacuum distill the botanicals. And you may know these guys from their own award-winning pink pepper gin. Bettina and Søren created the recipe for the gin with 11 botanicals, and to underline the story and the idea behind the gin, they divided the used botanicals into 3 categories based on the structure of a tree. The root and the seed of the tree are represented by juniper, galanga, licorice root, ginger, coriander seed, and chufa. The stem and the bark are represented by cinnamon, smoked oak wood and resin that really helps and complements the resinous and woody flavors of the juniper. And then the fruit of the tree is represented by fresh lemons, and then of course lots of these local Danish apples. Kongsgaard Raw Gin is a vintage gin. That means that they use different types of apples depending on which apples are at the best quality at the time that they need the apples. And the apples in this one here, in this bottle here, is, for example, based on Holsteiner Koks apples. The Danish apples are handpicked, and then they're left to rest for a couple of weeks to preserve as much sugar and flavor as possible, and then they're pressed locally. The juice is then sent down to the Outtro Distillery in France. And the result? Let me tell you, whenever I do a gin tasting and I introduce people to Kongsgaard Raw Gin, it is almost every time that this one becomes the most popular gin. It is a complex, very light and super inviting gin with its mild and fresh citrus notes, the juicy and fresh apple profile, and then a touch of cinnamon that just matches apples perfectly. This gin is, so super soft and makes one hell of a gin and tonic. And if you haven't tried this yet, what are you waiting for? And when you make a apple gin, the idea of putting the gin into a cask is of course very obvious. The gin's flavor profile combined with the vanilla notes and the woody flavors that the cask provides, it's just perfect. And for a second, just imagine the combination of apples, cinnamon, vanilla, fine citrus notes on a base from the piney freshness and some woody depth. Sounds perfect, right? And that is exactly the reason why Kongsgaard Gin decided to do this, the Kongsgaard Dark Gin. Especially the sweetness and the vanilla flavors was something that Bettina and Søren wanted to have, which is why they chose a cognac cask. And by law, cognac casks are made only with French wood, primarily oak wood from the forest of Tronçais or Limousin, and is considered among the highest quality wood for casks in the world. Especially Limousin cognac casks are known for bringing these very sweet, creamy vanilla notes and these soft tannins that just adds to the freshness and the complexity of the gin itself. And that is exactly the casks that they chose for this gin here. And normally you would let the gin rest for about, 4, 6, 8 months in the cask, depending on the cask, of course, how old it is and the result that you're looking for. But Kongsgaard, they chose to let the gin rest for 18 months. And normally that really could mean that it would be like chewing on a wet stick of wood, that the only flavor in the gin would be woody, but certainly not in this case here. Yes. The smell and the taste of the Kongsgaard Dark is, of course, influenced by the beautiful cognac cask. But I think here the apples have become even more present in this version. It is so intense. It is almost as if extra sweet apple juice were added. There's so much sweetness. There's so much roundness in this. And there's certainly a freshness to it from the citrus notes and the alcohol. It is so warming. It is so good. And as with the 4 Pillars 2 cask versions that I talked about in the last episode, the Kongsgaard Dark Gin should be enjoyed neat, with or without ice, or as a Martinez cocktail. And if you try the gin neat, try to serve it at different temperatures. Room temperature, chilled in the refrigerator or with an ice cube, or try to even put it in the freezer. All 3 temperatures really brings out different flavor profiles in the gin. And as a closing remark to this second episode, I just have to say that in my mind, a Cask Aged Gin has an even more complex nose and taste to it as you have in a whiskey or cognac, as all the different additional gin botanicals plays a part here besides the cask itself. In this case, the apples and the citrus notes plays a huge part together with the piney juniper and the cask itself. Sorry if I offended any whiskey and cognac loving people out there, but that is really my own humble opinion. So guys, I can only say this. Treat yourself with this beautiful little hybrid Danish-French gin cognac apple symphony of goodness. You all deserve it. Until next time.